Pay the cook. That's right. But we ain't talking about food. We're talking about James Cook. The Buffalo Bills gave him his bread, man. We'll talk about that today here on today's episode.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Keywords, your team every day. And that is the flat out truth, because it is Locked On NFL and we are on the Locked On Podcast Network. And that's exactly what it is. And we thank you for making us your first listen. Big shout out to the everydayers for joining us. And if you're new, I'm glad you're here. We'll give you a reason over about 30 minutes to come on back and be an everydayer. All right, man. First things first. What we're going to do is David Harrison and I are going to run it down. He's David Harrison. I'm Tony Wiggins, both credentialed members of the NFL media. And we're going to give you the biggest stories from around the National Football League today. What are those stories? I'll tell you right now. We're going to end up talking about rookies who look good early. We'll mention a couple of them. Travis Kelce gives a reason right in the middle of the show for his decline, if you will, although he had 800 yards receiving, but it wasn't up to his standards. We'll see if we're buying or selling that. But at the very top, we'll start with the Bills paying James Cook, and more importantly, keeping their nucleus intact for the foreseeable future. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your football futures right now. All right, Dave, we're going to get it started at the very top. Running backs getting paid. And we're going to talk about two running backs in the first segment. Everybody always talk about running backs being devalued. And then you look up and there's always one of them getting a whole bunch of money and always one of them maybe being the top 10 pick. And that's exactly what happened because James Cook got his money. I'm going to go listen to Joe Marino first, and then we're going to come back to you, my brother. Here you go.
Finally, there is a resolution to the James Cook situation, and the Bills and James Cook reached a 4-year, $48 million contract extension with $30 million guaranteed. It happened, and it's been a journey going back to February when James Cook pinned a comment on his own Instagram Live saying he wanted $15 million a season, sitting out anything that was voluntary, showing up to camp, practicing for the first week and a half, then all of a sudden holding in, warming up against the Giants, and then not playing. And then the hold in continues, but then it quickly changes, and he practices yesterday and today. We have a contract extension.
Unlike some teams, like the one of us covers, teams pay their playmakers, right, when things get good. I am throwing a little shade there. Go ahead and tell me what you think about this.
First of all, James Cook is not 30 years old. I think that's something that we gotta discuss there. But let's keep this focus on James Cook and the young man getting his contract. Look, I think this is a great move. Obviously, it's great for James Cook to get his money. Now he's a top 10 paid running back, which I think is commensurate with how he performs. It really reflects how important he is to the Buffalo Bills and everything that they're trying to do. Because we sat here last offseason talking about how the Buffalo Bills, and I was very public in my criticism of the Buffalo Bills, being like, I don't know what you're doing, but where you don't make improvements, you just stay the same. And then there's some areas where you actually decline and you actually move backwards, and yet you're trying to compete with teams that are constantly trying to move forward. Yeah. And then the Buffalo Bills told me to shut my mouth. Josh Allen said, hold your own stinking beer and watch my MVP season. And the Buffalo Bills were still a threat in the AFC. Now, where I could say that I was right is, did they make it any closer to winning a Super Bowl? No, you know what I mean? But not paying James Cook would take you one step further away from that goal, in my opinion, because then James is going to be disgruntled. He's going to be worried about his future and all these things. And those things are certainly impactful. But it shows that this Buffalo Bills team is at least open to doing things differently, right? Because this is the first big Buffalo Bills running back contract in a decade. Yeah. Like LaShawn McCoy was the last running back to get a big contract from the Buffalo Bills. And now here they are a decade later paying James Cook. So it's a great shift in the right direction. And, it's about time that, if I'm going to criticize them for doing what I perceive to be stagnant moves or even regressing, you definitely have to praise them for paying the guys that showcase that they can be a part of the reason that you can compete with the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Makes all the sense in the world, and you're spot on, and there ain't a whole bunch for me to add other than this. Right smack in the middle of this little run they're making with Josh Allen, you don't want to be the team that lets something go, and then the year after you let them go, you still need it. Case in point, Stephon Diggs. They've been chasing the number one receiver for 2 years now since they let him go. And everybody, if you say, what's the problem with Buffalo? We ain't got nobody to take the top off the defense. They don't have a number one receiver. Well, they let one go, right? Oh. So, and we understand the reasons why, but still, it doesn't mitigate the fact that it happened. If they would not have paid him, they would have lacked offensive playmaking and speed on their offense, and people would have been saying, "What are you doing?" Folks were wondering what the Chargers were doing on draft night. Why on earth didn't you take another wide receiver? Why are you taking a running back and you just traded for Najee Harris? Well, reports are that Jim Harbaugh says that they are going to be a running back by committee. If that's the case, I'm still might be asking, why are you taking a running back in the first round if you're going to be a running back by committee? Let's see what he's up to in training camp.
Because there's a lot of uncertainty with the Chargers running back room. We have no idea what's going on with Najee Harris. And so it is very important for Amarion Hampton to go out there, and I'm excited to watch this guy break tackles, run through somebody's face, use that physicality, catch some passes out of the backfield. I'm going to be looking at the speed and the acceleration, see if he's going to be able to take that corner and take off, and also pass protection, right? It's going to be really important that he's able to understand his assignments, take on those assignments, and eliminate the defenders that are trying to come after his quarterback. You can't be trusted with pass protection. It may limit your opportunities to get on the football field.
Quick correction. It was Greg Roman that said that, but Greg Roman said that, and you know that came right from the lips of his head coach, because offensive coordinators don't communicate things that their coaches don't believe. So I'm going to add a third running back, Rocket Sanders, 2-time Southeastern Conference, all-conference selection with 2 different teams. He's another one that's 6'2", 240 pounds, that has a lot of mileage on him too. I think they got a 3-headed power back monster, and I think that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, when Harbaugh was having his most successful years at Michigan, that's what he was doing. He was relying on his run game, which is why some people question J.J. McCarthy as a number 1 pick for a team, as a first-round quarterback, because, he came from a system that didn't really rely on him. It relied on the ground game. And then the question, too, in Los Angeles was, well, if we're trying to make Justin Herbert a bona fide MVP candidate, how are you going to do that with a run-first head coach? And then you bring in Greg Roman, which the reason he got bounced from Baltimore is because he didn't unleash Lamar Jackson enough as a passer. So, everything just pointed directly to the Chargers becoming this ground and pound type of offense. They brought Gus Edwards over, J.K. Dobbins over. They're not there anymore, so now they bring in Najee Harris. They go get Amarion Hampton. That's just what it's going to be, right? And that's why you look at their unit, and they got Trey Harris out of Ole Miss to bolster the wide receiver room, Keenan Allen coming back and all that stuff, but they're not really out there trying to get a receiver the way that the New England Patriots were out there trying to get a receiver, though they didn't necessarily succeed outside of Stephon Diggs that you just talked about. But it's going to be interesting, because I think that you can kind of make the argument of why do you go first round running back if you're going to do a running back by committee? But then you also say, this is why you go first round running back if you're going to go running back by committee, because just like the guys at Locked On Chargers just said, which, by the way, jacket and hat being worn by David Drogemeyer, I absolutely applaud the gear there in that clip. But, it's a very simple equation of you're going to lean on the most often injured position in the game, right? The running back position has the shortest shelf life of every player or any position on the field. So if you're going to lean on it, and you're going to lean on multiples of them, you got to have multiples of them. And if you're going to lean on your running game, you got to have 3 or 4 really good running backs. And truthfully, I actually think they're a little bit shy. I don't think they have 3 or 4 really good running backs to lean on, especially with Najee Harris banged up. But, we'll see how it turns out. The greatest attribute a coach can have is understanding when they're going the wrong direction and pivoting into the right direction. Greg Oman has never really been known for the pivot type of coach. But, we'll see. Because if LA is going to make this thing work, that might be what they have to do eventually. But, we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, we will see how it works out. And we're going to talk about some other teams trying to work it out. One team that looks like what you think the Chargers will look like, Detroit. We'll get to them in segment 2, talking about their offensive line because they are a two running back team. But first and foremost, we're going to talk about Travis Kelce, telling y'all why he may have fallen off a little bit last year. And we'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Man, it's almost time. And August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP right now or eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks in, this is your moment. I'm going to tell you right now, man, the MVP race, I picked one yesterday. I'm going to throw a different name out each and every day. I'm going to be Captain Obvious today and say Lamar Jackson because I think they might get it done in the AFC. That's right. I need y'all, though, to visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets, your futures bets, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. That is August 26th. It's FanDuel Futures Day. Make sure you go to FanDuel and play your game. Big Dave here with me, David Harrison from Locked On Commanders. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL podcast, The Barbershop. Running it down here, talking about these teams. Just talked about running backs. We'll get to the offensive line a little bit with Detroit. First, I want to talk about Travis Kelce. He said on his podcast yesterday, and I'm going to paraphrase him, looking forward, maybe looking ahead a little bit to what I'm going to get into next at this stage of my career is probably the reason why you saw me fall off a little bit. Now, he's not using it as an excuse. It's not woulda, coulda, shoulda, but he's just telling you that for the first time in his career, he's getting to the end of his career. He probably saw his brother out there doing his thing, and he probably said, okay, well, what's in it for me next? And it might have taken his eye off of things a little bit. Apparently, a lot of people noticed it, and they didn't rank him very high on the top 100 on our list. He wasn't very high. Listen to the man from Locked On Chiefs tell you about it, and then we'll come back and say, is he making excuses or is he just being transparent?
Old number 87, Travis Kelce, comes in at number 85 on our list. And I'm here to tell you that's a little too low. Is he going to be the best tight end in football? That might be tough to see, but he's definitely better than 85. Yes, he's got a ton of things going on. He's got, obviously, somebody we all know as a significant other. He's got bits and pieces, part of an F1 team, a brewery, all kinds of things to devote his time to, but he is still a professional football player that gets to play with Patrick Mahomes. And in the end, I think he can rebound from last season. Was it down? Yes, by all counts, including mine, but he does have it in himself to get back up on top. I think he feels this is a last run. He's going to put everything into it. I think we're going to see more of a classic Travis Kelce season. Will it be 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns? Doubtful. Even I can't predict that, but I do think it will be a significant rebound from last year, especially if they can keep their other targets healthy and protect Patrick Mahomes. This team is wrapped around Travis. He's been their identity, and I think he still is for a bit longer. You want to hear more about it? Join us on Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network.
Look, man, Shaq made a rap album, and everybody said he should have been shooting free throws. Shaq could have made a jazz album in the gym, and he wouldn't have shot free throws any better. So people are always looking for reasons to say dudes should be better. But this, look, him being, he's self-reporting on this stuff. So this opens up to people saying, look, that's why he dropped on the top 100.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever you're an older player, everybody's always kind of waiting for the decline to come. And so when we, as I say, as a network, see that decline happening, it's really easy to steer into it. It's real easy to be like, okay, here it is. The bottom's falling out. This is the time. And honestly, his landing 85th on the list is a little bit of a show of respect that the network has for him to keep him on the list and not predict that slide is going to go even further in 2025. Or it's respect for Patrick Mahomes, and there's no way Mahomes is going to let his boy fall off like that type of thing. I don't know what it is. I can tell you Travis Kelce was on my top 100. I can't honestly remember where I put him, but I do agree with Locked On Chiefs there that 85 feels a little too low, as in like he should have been, better than 85, like, 70s, 60s, something like that. But, it's easy to do. Now, as far as, is he hiding something or is he just making excuses? I think what people have to remember, and we've talked about this a couple times on Locked On NFL, that, there have been players in the past who relate in NFL seasons like a military deployment, and they get a lot of crap for it. But there are a lot of similarities to it. And I think one of the similarities is while you're in the thick of the season, you don't really have the time to stand out and give yourself a bird's eye view of your life and what's going on in your mind and what's going on around you, especially when you do have these other obligations. And, it's easy for anybody out there to say, like, well, you don't have to date a super famous singer. Okay, but the man's got to live and he deserves a love life just like everybody else, right? So, like, let's not judge him for that either. But, like, I don't think that people understand, like, the reason players take this year 1 to year 2 leap so often. I know this is a little bit off the beaten path for Travis Kelce, but the reason that happens isn't just because they magically get better. Honestly, the reason that happens is because from the end of their last college season to the end of their rookie season, there is no break for a rookie NFL player. There is no downtime. There is no time to reflect, to look back, to do any of this stuff. Then you get to your first offseason as an NFL player, and guess what? You don't have to go to classes. You don't have to go to practice. Now you actually have time for all of this stuff that you've been getting from scouts, GMs, draft, rookie camp, blah, 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 blah. It all actually clicks and it all actually sinks in. And then you take your approach to the offseason that first year with all of that information in mind. And that's why you see this jump into year 2 so often, is because of that reason. So NFL players are the same way. And that's where I liken this to a deployment a little bit, because Wig, like, you go month 1 to month 6, 8, 12, 15, whatever of your deployment. During those months, you're not taking a step back, breathing it all in, soaking it all in, doing all this stuff, getting perspective. You don't do that till you get home. And truthfully, you probably don't do that till 2 or 3 weeks after you get home, right? Exactly. Like, that's when the lessons of your last year of life or whatever, however long the period is, sinks in. That's when all that information clicks. The same happens for veterans. Like Travis Kelce, in the midst of it, is he hearing the noise? Yeah, probably. Does he have some people in his ear? Yeah, maybe. But honestly, if you're a loved one and this guy's in the middle of a football season, he's struggling, the last thing you want to do is be like, hey, Travis, I see that you suck. Maybe let me talk to you about why you suck before I go to my insurance salesman job because I'm not in the NFL. Like, that's not what you're going to do as a loved one, as a family member. It's after the season that you have those honest conversations, honest look back. You have your exit interview with your coaches. Maybe you call up Pat. You're like, man, what do you think? You have your honest conversation with Jason Kelce, your brother, who played in the league after the season. So, yeah, so I believe him. And when people wonder, okay, well, dude, like, why didn't you identify that week 8? I just don't think we on the outside really understand just how back to back everything really is, because we get time. Like, we can sit up, put our feet up on the coffee table and break down everything Travis Kelce did last week because we have the time to do that. They don't have the time to do that during the season.
They don't. And another thing people need to understand, I tell people right now, one thing NFL players don't do during the season: lift weights to get stronger, unless you're on the practice squad. It's all about maintenance. It's all maintenance. Ain't nobody proving anything during the season. That's not the time for that or reflection. Real quick, we're going to go here with the Detroit Lions for about a minute. It gets harder when you go from the hunter to the hunted, but now Detroit might be, because of injuries and other people just forgetting about them, are going back to the hunter. It's all about the offensive line, though. Check this out.
This team will only go as far as this offensive line takes them. Yes, they've got an excellent quarterback, all right? They've got as good a wide receiver as is in the league. They got a budding superstar at the other wide receiver. They got good depth at wideout. We've talked about Isaac Tesla and how good he looks in the preseason. Their tight end is all world and Sam Laporta. All right, their running backs could be the best tandem in the game with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And I love me some Craig Reynolds. Come on, Craig. But the O-line's got to be healthy, and these guys got to have time in the next month to work together.
Shout out Matt Derry for the Friday reference. Sounded like Smokey saying, come on, Craig, I heard him there, but give me 1 minute real quick on the Lions and what you think.
He's spot on. It doesn't matter how talented your quarterback is, your running backs are, your receivers are. If your offensive line can't give them time or holes to operate with, it doesn't matter. Dan and Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, they always say it. I always steal it because it's absolutely perfect. It's really hard to be a good team when you're bad in the trenches. Yep. If the Detroit Lions offensive line can't hold up, they're going to be a bad team.
No doubt about it. We're going to take a look at a couple of rookies, man. One of them happens to be an offensive lineman, ironically. And the other one is a guy who we had a lot of people who disagreed about his role in the National Football League. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Me and my boys in Showtime and Playmakers are going to do this thing for 18 years in a row, all on Yahoo Fantasy. And you should too, whether you're a first-timer or you're a veteran making your 1 millionth league. Here's what I need you to do, man, to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness. Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's only one team left standing. With the season around the corner now, it's time to get your league together. That's right, get it together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classes, you can still play head-to-head in private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Third segment here on the Barbershop on Locked On NFL. I'm Tony Wiggins with my man David Harrison today. So many times we talk about rookies, man, in the draft process, the disagreements, the building up, seeing it through different lenses, wondering how people are going to play when they finally get a chance to show themselves in the National Football League. And a lot of the talk in the top five was, what is Will Campbell? Is Will Campbell the tackle or is Will Campbell the guard? Well, Nick Cattle's up with Locked On Patriots. Has a little bit of an early answer for all of you, and New England fans might find this to be very, very good news.
Bedard wrote Campbell was very solid against Washington outside that sack fumble play. Certainly finished well at times. You can tell Campbell is well schooled and his fundamentals are sound compared to Wilson. Campbell knows how to play, just needs to keep learning. And Campbell has consistently been good during the team reps. And if you tell me that you've got, at least average pass protection from Campbell, and you think he's going to be a great, maybe even elite run blocker, then he should be a solid starting left tackle for the next 10 years. He doesn't have to be great in pass protection. If he's good, if he's average, and then gives you that element in the run game where he's just an absolute mauler and terrific in that phase of offense, you're talking about a guy who's going to be rock solid for 10, 12, 14 years at left tackle.
All right, you were there up close and personal. So when he said Will Campbell played well, he said outside of that strip fumble. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a pretty big deal right there now. So let me know what you saw.
Yeah, so look, first of all, Will Campbell's going to be fine, and he's going to be a very good offensive lineman in the NFL, okay?
You take him in Washington in a heartbeat, wouldn't you? You take him in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is going to sound negative, but I want everybody to understand this is not negative about Will Campbell. This is negative about preseason narratives. This is why I don't say I hate I love the preseason, but this is the downside, right? Every good thing has a downside. This is the downside to the preseason. Like, Oreos are delicious, but the downside is they make you fat. Preseason is very entertaining. Evaluations are great, but the downside is people go crazy. There are 3 clips making rounds. All right. One of them is Will Campbell pulling to the left, getting to the second, third level of the Washington Commanders defense and planting cornerback Noah Igbenogany. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. This is a cornerback. This is a second string cornerback. This is a cornerback who's not known as a run defending cornerback because he's a cornerback. So don't you're sharing viral clips of offensive linemen pancaking DBs. Like, what are we talking about?
My man, Dave, 38 hot. You 38 hot about that, but go ahead. Keep going.
Second clip. He is part of a double team that keeps a third string defensive tackle from filling a lane in a run fit. Look, great blocking up front. Don't get me wrong. Great blocking by the Patriots. But first of all, Will Campbell's the second part of the double team. Okay. He's not even the initial the initial engager. He's not even the guy that seals off the lane. He's the guy that helps finish the block. Did his job, okay? And I don't expect Will Campbell to apologize for playing against a third-string D lineman with the Washington Commanders. But the bottom line is, again, this ain't Aaron Donald, okay, that they sealed off that A gap and planted on his back, okay? Like, let's calm down. The next clip is him playing against Clelin Ferrell. Clelin Ferrell, Tony Wiggins, from the year he was drafted top 10 in the National Football League, Clelin Ferrell was never supposed to be a wide 9 pass rushing savant. In this rep, Clelin Ferrell is lined up wide 9, trying to make an outside move against Will Campbell, and Will Campbell stops him. All right. Bet. He's a run-stopping D end. He's not a wide 9 pass rusher. For some reason, he was out there wide 9 pass rushing. I don't know why. It's preseason. The Washington Commanders sat their top 30 players. That's probably why. Give him credit for dominating the guys he faced, right? Because he did do that. But let's chill with the, like, Will Campbell is going to be this generational left tackle because look what he did against the Washington Commanders and all this stuff. And then, oh, by the way, we're just going to forget that strip sack fumble that he was part of giving up.
Pretty big deal.
By the way, Will Campbell played 9 or 8 pass protection reps in that preseason game. One of those was that strip sack fumble that everybody just wants to just shove aside. Who got the strip sack? Johnny Newton.
Yeah,
Johnny Newton.
You don't even have to do that.
Second round pick from last year got that strip sack. That's who Will Campbell went up against.
Yeah, you don't have to do that once a week. You do that once a month, and you're gonna get benched.
Yeah,
you can do that once every 4 games, and you're gonna get. You do it 3 times in 1 year, you might get benched. Look, I feel you with that.
We're out here on social media praising him for pancaking a second string DB, for double teaming a third string D tackle, and for standing up to a non-pass rushing wide 9 pass rusher. But we want to just cast away him giving up a strip sack to Johnny Newton, a second-round draft pick from last year, who is going to be a part of the actual rotation for the Washington Commanders starting defense. That rep, out of 8, he had 8 reps. That rep, out of the 8 that he had, we're just going to cast aside. That one don't matter. The one against the guy who's actually going to play significant snaps in 2025, that rep don't matter. All these other ones against practice squad guys and depth guys, these are the ones that show that Will Campbell's going to be an all-pro. Listen, again, no shade to Will Campbell. This is all about preseason narratives. This is why I hate preseason narratives.
Let me explain something to y'all. Don't let the little smirk on his face fool you. David does not have all that bass in his voice because Will Campbell played against the team that he covers. He is being objective. He is not sitting there with that little chicken crap grin on his face and taking real good fun and slapping Will Campbell all up and across your
but it's TV not Will Campbell
or whoever. Yeah,
it's not his fault.
It's not personal. Don't even think that for 1 minute.
Yeah. It's not Will Campbell's fault that people are out here talking crazy. And I told a Patriots beat reporter while we were at joint practice that early in the draft process, I had some crazy dreams that maybe somehow, because of his quote-unquote short arms, Will Campbell would slide and we'd be able to see him pass protecting for his buddy Jaden Daniels. But obviously that was never going to happen.
All right, there you go. A lot of talk before the draft was about where does Jalen Walker play. I say play him at stack linebacker like you do Michael Parsons and pass rush him on passing downs. Either way, they're looking for him to be good. So the talk about him is where they were going to play, not necessarily so we don't. I don't want David to be chewing me out now about clickbait and dudes just doing. I'm just telling you is about how they were going to use him. Listen to my man Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons.
When you look at the Falcons' 2 first-round picks and James Pierce and Jalen Walker, right, a reasonable expectation is that you're going to get production from those guys as rookies, typical of what you would get out of a first-round edge rusher, whether you're looking back over the last 5, 10, or 15 years. On average, first-round edge is getting about 5.5 sacks, or I think 33 pressures or 36 pressures, depending on how your parameters. So let's say roughly 4 to 6 sacks, 30 to 40 pressures is a reasonable expectation for any first round edge. And I think both Pierce and Walker are on pace to have that type of production this year. I would project maybe Pierce on the higher end, maybe closer to 6 sacks and 40 pressures, and Walker maybe on the lower end, which is maybe 4 sacks and 30 pressures, which is about where my post-draft expectations for both of those guys.
All right, hopefully those numbers will be better than that because Trayvon Walker got 10 the last 2 years, and everybody says that they want to trade just a bucket of peanuts and some ramen noodles for him, and that ain't going to happen here in Jacksonville. But the Falcons need some pass rush. They're the worst pass rushing team over the last 2 decades in the National Football.
Yeah, no, 100%. They could really use either of these guys or both of them, especially, to come up and come up big as rookies. You know, the only pushback I would give to Aaron there with those projections would be, first of all, projections are projections, so there's no reason to really argue with them. But the problem I have with Jalen Walker, the problem that you have with Pierce as well, is they're kind of one trick ponies right now. Like, they just kind of have a thing they do really well, which is speed. And outside of that, they don't really disengage. They don't really play well against power. They don't have the power. Even speed to power isn't necessarily a big part of their game. So I just have concerns on whether or not they're going to. I kind of look at it as like Chase Young. And look, I know Chase Young had 8.5 sacks in his rookie season. And he's a little bit of a different type of player. But when you go back to look at that rookie season, which a lot of people in these parts have done since that rookie season, the majority of his production came against backup offensive linemen, who the very next year, most of the guys that gave up sacks to Chase Young in his rookie season weren't even on NFL rosters, or at least if they were on rosters, they weren't starting. So it kind of shows you why he was able to do what he did in his first year in the league. And so these guys, you're gonna have to look when it comes to recapping their rookie seasons. We're gonna have to look back, see what the numbers are, but then also go put context to it. Like, if they got 3 sacks against this dude that doesn't pass block any better than David Harrison, all right, we might want to contextualize what we think of his actual rookie season. So those things are going to matter. But, right now, projections are great. The speed is certainly there. There's a lot of agility there. I also worry about, if I'm the Falcons, I worry about teams using that aggression and that speed against me, getting them to bite in on play actions, getting them to read into, a counter play this way, turn around to throw a screen the other way over their head, things like that. But, those are all lessons that are going to come for every rookie defender, no matter how talented you are.
Jalen Walker, to me, is a second effort guy. He is George Karlaftis standing up. And what I mean by that is, you don't always see what makes him special. I think it's his football IQ and his want to, and the fact that he doesn't quit on plays is going to make him a real big asset for Atlanta. You got a big asset right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and that's making us your first listen. And NFL fantasy draft season is here for your second listen. Go to Locked On Fantasy Football's podcast with hosts Vinny Iyer and Kate Majuk. Listen every day to prep your fantasy draft and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you listen to Locked On Commanders, Locked On Jaguars, and the Madman will be back with you tomorrow morning with another episode of Locked On NFL. You guys, thank you for spending 33 minutes with us today. Take care. We'll see you later.